An exceptionally busy day of motorsports activity here at Sonoma Raceway in California wine country as we are staged up for the final event of this great day of racing. It is time for round 7 of the Pirelli GT4 America Sprintx Championship, sponsored by CrowdStrike here at this great racing venue. Hi everybody, Greg Creamer alongside Calvin Fish, Ryan Marine down in the pits for us here, and we are getting ready to go. And we take a look at this very unique machine, the KTM Crossbow. This is a case of coulda, woulda, shoulda from yesterday, and they have every ability to perhaps have some redemption today.
Yeah, they've really showcased great speed by sweeping both poles. Had the lead yesterday, and Matt Silliahug suddenly lost power. It was a broken electronic wastegate that they had to go to work on last night to fix that problem. So let's see if they can pick up where they were yesterday in terms of the leading this race. But look out for a strong effort here from the Flying Lizard Motorsports. Aston Martin, they've been on a bit of a tear of late. You've got Robbie Foley starting the 21 car, and Michael Dinan, who's just been flying in that car all season long.
Yeah, he is just brimming with confidence right now and has already had some good runs on what is an incredibly challenging racetrack, Cal.
Yeah, just a touch over 2.5 miles, 3 sectors as you look at it there. The first and second sector, lots of elevation change. The real key to this race circuit is very aggressive in its asphalt makeup, and what that does, it tears the tires up a little bit. So certainly over the course of this 60-minute event with the same set of Pirelli P0s have to last, certainly a fact here in the opening stint for the drivers to really manage those tires well to hand the car over to their teammates during that pit stop window between the 25 and 35 minute of this race, so that their co-driver is something to live with.
And there's a look at the track from the expert eyes of Calvin Fish. Now from an onboard look at this track from the very fast eyes of one Max Root. Here's our Porsche track preview.
Hello, this is Maxwell Root, and this is your Porsche track preview at Sonoma Raceway. We're approaching turn 1 at about 140 miles an hour, focusing on maximizing our rotation up here, down to second gear, really getting all the power down using the rest of the road. We're approaching turn 3. This is an uphill elevation change that is really important to maximize power and to use the maximum road. Down to second gear for 4. All the road here as well. This is a flat out section setting up for the carousel, which is a very important part of the track for time. Rotating the car here, opening my hands as I'm running all the way to the exit road. This is a nice place to take a small drink and refocus for the stint ahead. Braking right around the 250 board, down to second gear, trailing the brake, and rotating the car, parking it, and setting up for the back S section. Up to third, fourth gear here. Going to take a small lift into 8A and really maximize our speed as we open our hands and go down the back straightaway. Braking, this is a small fast chicane, first gear, small lift, and back to full power, flat out around 10. Opening our hands up and setting up for a successful 11 to complete the lap, avoiding a small bump here on the brakes, down to first gear, waiting on the rotation, opening the hands, and maximizing the power all the way to the wall. Thank you, guys.
And in every lap, you always have in a race car little bits of correction, but on that lap, you saw how often he was flailing on the wheel, and that's just the lack of grip here. You're constantly correcting and saving the car as the field rolls off. And we take a look at that starting lineup, and again, that Crossbow up front, and then the 2 Aston Martins. I think it's going to be interesting to see here what Kenton Cook can do in that B-Sport Racing Aston Martin in his first part of the race here as the pros and the Pro-Am combination started off. And Brian Putt's got pace around here too, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I think looking a little bit deeper in this field, it's a surprise to see yesterday's winner, Jason Hart. He shared that number 47 Nola Sport Porsche with Matt Travers yesterday. They start from position 9, and the guys who were chasing them coming into this championship round were Bill Oberlin and James Walker Jr. in the Bimwell number 82. They line up 8, so they're deep in the pack. They've got to make some moves here early.
Yeah, it's interesting that both of them are back in the pack like that, and it's just unusual for Jason Hart to be that buried in the field. But this is a track that can just throw curveballs at you, and you make a change, you think something's going to happen, and because of the grip and the story of this track itself, sometimes that doesn't work. I mean, Bill Auberlin even said, we made a change, we thought we were going to be great for qualifying, and everything just went right out the window.
Yeah, they're struggling to get it back. I mean, he was fastest in the practice session before qualifying. They made a change to try and look after the tires a little bit better, the rear tires, and suddenly the car will not turn. And he just said it was like driving on ice yesterday. So they're trying to backpedal a little bit, but then you find that the racetrack has evolved and you're just behind. You're half a step behind all of the way. And with a level of competition in this field now, you just miss it a little bit, you suddenly find yourself in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, 23 cars deep, lots of stories. Ryan, what are you hearing?
Well, an interesting story at the very back of this field. Starting shotgun on the field is the Not Lad Racing by RS1 Aston Martin. That's Joe Dalton, who goes by Matt, and his co-driver Patrick Gallagher, who's going to start the car in this race. And they did not make it to the finish yesterday. They've been dealing with overheating issues that they tell me do not stem from the crash that Matt had in the testing that led up to this weekend. That was what took them out of the race yesterday. They had a hardship lap today after working overnight to try and rectify the problem, but it happened again on the hardship lap. So they've gone back to work. They've got the car out there. Patrick's going to take the start, but it's a bunch of nervous guys down here just hoping everything will hold together. They really would like to get to the end of this race.
Absolutely. Of course, that is the Patrick Gallagher, little inside joke we have. He's a big Ohio State alumnus. But if you look at the graphics on that car, and you can see the back half of it, Matt wanted to do a car. He's a big Eddie Van Halen fan, and that is an homage to the graphics on Eddie's famous self-designed Frankenstrat guitar they called from the Strat Guitar Company. And with all of the patchwork they've had to do to it, Patrick said it's now a Franken-Martin, because it's got a lot of different bits and pieces on it. But as you said, Ryan, they want this car just right now. Doesn't matter how it looks. They just want it to go fast and last a little bit. And nice to have them able to make the field, although they've got their work cut out for them.
They do. A long way to go, but you know, if the car is healthy, Pat Gallagher's going to get up on the wheel and try and get it to the front. So hopefully it's the Pat and Matt show here today.
Yeah, that's a good show when everything's working for sure here. And as I said, big field here, some 23 cars. And as you said, some of the stories a little bit deeper on the pack than we might normally expect here. And you think, you know, one of them, the 36 Andretti Autosport car, starting back in the 17th spot in the overall order. I mean, that's sort of a big deal. Tim Barber and Cole Serralo have been wickedly quick this whole season. They're way back there. I mean, there's some stories. And the guys that qualified on pole in the AM class for yesterday's race are sitting back in the 20th spot in the grid. I mean, there's a lot of stories and a lot of potential in this field.
Yeah, and a great performance by Zach Anderson,
yes,
who shared the car with Sean Gibbons to the AM victory yesterday, the other NOLA Sport car. He sits alongside his championship leading from the Pro-Am division, Jason Hart. So that's a brilliant performance by Zach there to line up on row 5.
It's going to be interesting to see here. They've just been dealing with little problems in this program here. The number 30 Flying Lizard Motorsports McLaren, Michael Cooper starting. And there it is, that bright blue McLaren. He is known for being very quick in opening laps.
He is, and he's coming off a pair of victories already this weekend in a similar machine for the Black Dog Speed Shop organization. 2 sprint wins here, so don't count out Michael here, even though he's starting back in that 11th position. Expect him to be cutting his way through into that top 5 possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt Siljahaug in that KTM Crossbow, when he got in the car at the driver change at that point, he was able to just hustle away just a little bit. That car is really good at this track. It's a momentum car. This is a track that isn't about power, it's about momentum. And that car is easy on tires. Everything just sort of plays into their strength here.
It does, and that team is led by John Mueller from Muellerize. So he has a long history here, dating back to when his dad raced back in 1972. John himself raced in '86, and he said, we're tough to beat around this place, so let's see if they can get those technical issues pushed to one side and score a victory here today.
Yeah, that issue with that turbo deal yesterday was just gutting because it looked so good at a track they're so strong on here. So here we go. Siljahaug bringing him around. And Robbie Foley alongside in that Aston Martin. Green flag flies, round 7 in the Sprintx Pirelli GT4 division underway. Foley wanting to go around the outside, up the hill. Not able to get it done. And look at Kenton Cook working the outside line here. See if he can make it stick around the outside of 2. He's still there. That might give him the inside into 3. He goes in deep, but Foley squeezes them. They're still side by side.
Awesome racing and driving between those two if they can survive, and they do as they crest the hill. Look at this, down to the inside. Chris Wilson, I believe it is, dives down the inside in the rear and racing Aston Martin to take that position away from Cook.
And Greg Leafouge right behind watching them. This is definitely a home track for him, and he slots in, not quite able to get anything done in terms of getting around Kent Cook, but Chris Wilson is always Mr. Optimistic Opportunity.
He really is. Andy Lee having a nice start here as well. He's up there in the top 6 as well. The GMG Racing machine, you can see him there, that bright blue colored car sitting in the 6th position as they come through turn 7. Side-by-side action there. I think that may be Jason Hart trying to make some moves here. Bill Auberlin's had a decent start. He's up to 7th.
Yeah, that's actually a solid start hit just to get a spot for him at this stage. You can see Siljahaug already able to gap things, and that's what he needs to do. And if he can do that, that car, the one downside is it takes a little time to get heat into the tires of that crossbow. And if he's able to build a little margin before the car really comes good, that's huge. There's a look at Bill Auberlin in that Redline Oil BMW, trying to work his way back through the pack right now on the back end of Andy Lee in that blue 511 Tactical GMG Racing Audi. And right behind Bill is another GMG entry, and that is Andrew Davis in the Frost NYC Porsche that he shares with Jason Bell.
This is a stacked deck here today. You got Auberlin and Davis right behind him. Championship leader Jason Hart, Jan Halen right there in the mix, followed by Zach Anderson, who continues to lead in the AM class.
And actually for Michael Cooper, he slipped back just a little bit. We thought he'd be going right with these guys up the front. I think he got trapped and lost a little ground.
Quick correction is Chris Wilson, of course, who leads in AM with a brilliant start there. Running up in the 3rd position. Leader of those 2 white Aston Martins as they run down the hill towards turn 5.
Yeah, he went from 5th to 3rd by the time they got to turn 7 on the opening lap, Chris did. But now he's feeling some pressure as Kent Cook and that B-Sport Aston Martin is really starting to come to life.
Coming to life. I mean, Chris Wilson to be performing at this level against some of the young guns in this championship, really a testimony to his class and skill. He and John Allen coming off a pair of victories at VIR in the last event of our championship season. Side by side there with Davis. Auberlin doesn't want to give it to him. It's going to be tight there as they come off a 7A, and Davis just clears him. Nice move.
Now look at Jason Hart trying to get, ooh, a little tap there.
That's a really dodgy place to do it. You touch there, that concrete wall is not that far away, can have a huge impact. We've seen incidents there over the years, Greg.
We have indeed. Derek DeBoer comes to mind, who exactly similar incident. So that's a spot for a little respect. And I think in the end, Hart went, yeah, this is not good, and dipped the throttle just a little bit here and gave it up. But Leafouge feeling some serious pressure from Andy Lee. Great to have Andy back in the championship along with co-driver Lea Sabo.
Yeah, he's a great young talent. We saw him come to life here in our championship stage back in the GTS days. I think it was like 2015 where he really had solid seasons consecutively, and then he seemed like he slipped through the net a little bit, so it's great to see him have this opportunity to be back here, and as always showcases his talent towards the front of the field.
Absolutely chasing Greg Leafouge and that Cameron Racing Products, that orange and blue BMW. And, he was right up. Leafouge was on the back of Kent Cook, and now Cook's been able to just get a little bit of a gap here. And Auberlin just still working on fending off Jason Hart, then Jan Halen.
I think that's an indicator to how much pace Bill Auberlin has in that BMW. Very rarely do you see him back up in a field. You see the gap that Andrew Davis has immediately established as Bill is just on full defensive mode. He's under attack right now from Jason Hart in that bright yellow and white, the first of the 2 yellow and white NOLA Sport entries there.
And Kenton Cook, ooh, off there. I think that is one of the Motorsports USA entries. That's the 111 that has had an off. And it should be Ty Clark who is starting in that car. I have to see, I wasn't exactly sure where that was, so we'll keep an eye on it. But as I said, chatting with Kenton Cook after yesterday's race, he said, well, that was interesting. He said, absolutely no grip whatsoever. And I said, well, that didn't get your attention. He goes, well, it was fun. He said, just throwing the car around, drifting and sliding. He said, but it wasn't particularly fast. And he said, that's, but it's the same for everybody, and you just have to deal with it. And right now, He is glued to the back of Chris Wilson.
Yeah, correction again from me as Wilson in a Mercedes, getting confused with all these weird racing entries here.
I know.
They're on an Aston Martin's as well, so.
Uh-oh.
That's a shame. Pat Gallagher struggling again.
Yeah, this has just not been a great weekend.
Up front, great weekend for these guys in terms of pace, but they still need to bring it home and get the big trophy. Seems like right now they're comfortable leaving that car out there off to the side of the road.
Yeah, that's the exit at 2, isn't it?
High-speed section. It can't go wrong there. Cars disappear in different directions, so wait and see if we stay green here.
Sometimes the officials will give, you know, if the team says we're talking to them, we think we can get it to restart, they'll give that driver as much time as possible, but at a certain point, and if they deem it to be in an unsafe area, you just have to pull that trigger. Yeah, look at this. I mean, Andrew Davis is, there's no question, he is, you know, one of the real talents in this field, along with Lee and everybody in front. But to see them just driving away from Bill Oberlin like this, there's no question that Redline O Bimmer World entry just not quite where it should be. And you look at what they were able to do at VIR. Yeah, something's off.
Well, it's just a mystery, and sometimes what can happen, you can do a setup change, you think, wow, that was the wrong direction. Maybe there's a technical issue with the car. Maybe there's a shock gone bad or something like that, a differential issue that kind of misleads you a little bit. You're trying to backpedal in terms of the setup. As we see a big move here by Kenton Cook down to the inside. Doesn't quite make it stick. Chris Wilson again with that Mercedes able to take it really deep there, take over the apex before Kenton could fall.
Yeah, and you know, with Chris, that's one of those scenarios where Chris can't make the move, and with Chris's level of experience, he went, yeah, I've seen that before, and knew exactly how to defend on it. And there's Bill, and we do have a full course yellow has been called, so that is going to be a reset. The guy that didn't want to see that was Silliahog, who everything was going beautifully to plan.
Yeah, but I think if the car stays healthy, they'll be in good shape. I mean, it's a really fast car displayed by the 2 pole positions and the early lead yesterday. Yeah, that's just too much in an impact zone there. If 2 cars come together, you can suddenly have someone spear off on that side of the road. Yeah,
no question about that. Just to call attention here, Cole Serralo, who started in this one in that number 25, the CCR Team TFB entry, shares with Tim Barber, started 20th. He is up to 14th. And that has now moved him up into 2nd in the silver class. Long way behind the silver leader of Silliahog. But nonetheless, that has been a brilliant opening few laps by Cole Serralo. And we talked about it at VIR. Last year, he was running Touring Car A machinery in a front drive Honda. And he has adapted to these GT4 machines extremely well.
He has, and I think he's got a great partner there in Tim Barber, who's an exceptional talent, and Tim's really busy. He's running a number of programs now, or involved in a number of programs, so I think it's a good group, and they're going from strength to strength, so it's great to see these new teams and new combinations start to excel on this GT4 stage here with the Sprintx. I mean, it's such a popular championship, as you can see, the amount of cars we've got entered here this weekend. Some 25 cars seeing the green flag here today. And in the current pandemic situation, that is an awesome field to put together.
It really is, as we watch Patrick Gallagher bring the RS1 Aston Martin down into the pits. Ryan, what else are you hearing from the pit lane?
Well, that was one of the updates I was going to give is, yes, Patrick Gallagher unfortunately has had to bring that car in. I'm not quite sure exactly if they're done, if they're going to keep working on it. I'll check on that in a moment. Did have an update on the Ty Clark situation. The crew wasn't exactly sure what led to him being off course there, but they were trying to get him to restart it and bring it back around, but evidently the car was just not quite cooperating. And then one other thing to keep an eye on, one of our stars of the day yesterday in the Ginetta, Cody Ware, had some issues right off the start. They believe there was some contact with the Andretti car, the McLaren of Jared Andretti, and it apparently did do some damage to the alignment, so he's had to drop back quite a ways. It's not going to be quite right the rest of the race, unfortunately, either, but at least with this yellow, that lets them catch back up, because they also had an issue shortly after that contact with the car losing power, but that was very brief. They got it fired back up, and they have some hope, at least, that they might be able to recover some of their lost ground.
That's all you got?
It.
That was a great update, Ryan. Thank you very much. That was fantastic information. And a lot of cars that we were sort of up here in the booth wondering, boy, I wonder what's happened there, and getting the update. So really appreciate that. And I think one of the interesting things here is you take a look, you know, the Andretti car running one of the silver competitors, we're used to seeing that car up at the front, and this track just turns things on its ear every once in a while. And you see Serrallo, Andretti, and Whitmer, that second, third, and fourth in the silver category, 14th, 15th, and 16th, and these are the pros.
I know. I mean, it just showcases the depth of this championship field, and the fact that yesterday's winner is barely inside the top 10, Jason Hart. And
yes.
you know he's always ready to go and ready to fight. So there's no easy pickings, and this pro lineup is just sensational. I mean, Silly Hog's doing a great job in the crossbow. Foley, Wilson. I mean, Wilson is just so impressive at his age as a bronze-rated driver to be running up in the mix like this. Just really fantastic stuff.
Well, he did a one-off at VIR in the Windward Racing GT3 Mercedes, and ended up starting on the outside of the front row in one of the races. I mean, he is just evergreen. Look at the start. Facility Hog, the key was just to lead up into 2, and he got that done with a little help from a very racy Kenton Cook on Robbie Foley there.
Yeah, great battle though, side by side between Foley and Cook all the way up until they got to turn 4 before they really sorted that one out.
You can see Wilson went from 5th to 4th, and then he's right there, and as they get down into turn 4, just jumps to the inside of Kenton Cook, and that went to 3rd.
That's a racer at heart right there. He just could see that situation developing and just stuffed it down the inside. Nice move.
Here's a look at the number 30 in the hands of Michael Cooper. That's the Flying Lizard at McLaren. And Michael continued to chase things here in the Sprintx category, but when he runs the McLaren, and he's a McLaren factory driver, so he runs for a couple different teams, and he has been unstoppable thus far in the sprint category.
Yeah, and a bit of a surprise that he's not able to make more progress here. I know it's a different team and setups are slightly different, but you know, he's just been so dominant in the sprint races here this weekend that I expected him to be cutting up into the top 5 at least. So it just seems like the balance isn't quite there on the 30 Flying Lizard Motorsport entry at the moment.
And of course, his co-driver is Erin Vogel, who made her debut in SRO GT4 competition last year right here. This is her home track, has done a lot of racing in the GT3 Trophy Series. Out in this area, it's GT Cup cars, not GT3 homologated machines. But a lot of experience, knows this track was a perfect place for her to come in and make a start. And in her first start, she promptly qualified 5th in class last year for that first race. And she came in this year and she said, I feel like a completely different driver just with the testing, the experience, and running the first couple of races. She said, coming back here now, I just feel much more comfortable and attuned to things at this track and in this car.
Yeah, and it's the local track for Flying Lizard Motorsports, so they know this racetrack very well. They in fact tested here just last week with Aaron and Michael, and their other car is running at the sharp end right now with Robbie Foley running different platform. Of course, they run the Aston Martin for the 21 team in the 2nd position.
Another guy that's back in the pack that we can expect to maybe see some fireworks from, 13th overall right now, is the number 91, and that is the Reardon Racing Aston Martin in the hands of Vesko Kozarov, who we know is a top-tier level driver. He'll be turning it over to Jeff Burton later, but he is certainly very, very fast. And again, just another example of this is just that qualifying session. And again, this isn't based on fast laps from yesterday's race. They have a separate qualifying session, and this place just turned things upside down a little bit.
It did. I mean, you've, as we said, got championship leaders mired in the middle of the pack, some surprises up front. And this racetrack demands that the race car is underneath you, and it's so easy to lose the balance, as we talked about with the Bimmer World 82 machine. But this car has been really rock solid all weekend long. Michael Dinan has been sensational this year since they switched to the Aston Martin platform for the Flying Lizard Motorsport number 21 group.
Yeah, we've seen that, you know, with a couple of different driver and car combinations. We've talked about it in GT3. It certainly applies in GT4. And, you know, Michael had always shown, you know, that capability and that ability for speed. But boy, he got that Aston Martin, got behind the wheel of that, and it was just like a glove. And he just feels mega confident in it and comfortable in it, and that breeds confidence, I guess.
It does. So everyone getting ready here for the restart.
And that happens just after that little left-hand kink that Celia Haug is heading toward right now. And watching for the restart, and it flies, but Dynan staying really close.
Really close. Great restart there by Robbie Foley, putting the pressure on the crossbow as they climb the hill. And they've gapped third and fourth position at the same time. Celia Haug needs to generate that tire temperature. Foley's trying to take advantage here. Not a battle for class position, but for the overall lead.
And absolutely right. That's Robbie Foley, Dynan's co-driver. Dynan will be in later. And Chris Wilson there in third, Cook in fourth. Then Leia Fouge rounds out the top 5 right there, coming into view.
Andrew Davis looking pretty racy right now, sits there in the 7th position. Had a nice podium run here yesterday. 3rd in Pro-Am, 4th overall. Looks to be really strong once again.
He's one of those guys, he can just get up on it right now. Does exactly that. There is a look at Jared Andretti.
This is key. These guys are really fighting out for the championship. The 28 squad going up against the Andretti Autosport number 36. It's just a 1-point margin right now, I believe, between the two cars and the two pairs of drivers in the championship standings.
Battling right now for the final podium spot in the silver category, those two.
So for Andretti, he's just got to focus big picture. You know that Jared's not used to seeing that many cars up in front of him, but the real key is the championship leader by just 1 point is behind you.
Ooh, Kenton got a run here. Wilson recognized it and drifted over to the middle of the track, trying to dissuade Kenton from thinking about anything. And look at this, Jason Hart down to the inside of Bill Auberlen. They were racing this close frequently at VIR. One of the races there, and now Auberlen trying to stay to the inside and not give Jason this position. I think Jason's with that outside line, he can flow a little bit more speed, but Auberlen's going to still stay with it and finally has to give it up.
Yeah, he just recognized through his experience that that gap was going to get ever slimmer as they climb the hill, and you just can't afford to touch at those speeds. Jan Halen is right there in the RS1 Motorsports Porsche as well, starting to put the heat on Bill Auberlen. So Auberlen very much in damage control. They don't have the setup underneath him this weekend. He is fighting tooth and nail here to try and maintain a top 10 position.
That's a good point. Bill's looking at his mirrors, and he and Halen had some close quarters racing at the start of one of the races at VIR. Let's get your attention a little bit. And I'm real impressed here behind Halen, Zach Anderson in that number 7 car. This is an Am-Am pairing, and Zach is right with one of the most experienced drivers in this paddock.
Yeah, celebrated another win here yesterday, and they got new sponsorship on board here this weekend with the local winery, Trattori. And certainly had them celebrating last night, maybe down a few glasses of vino.
Top tier stuff, we understand for sure, and it's Dry Creek Olive Company as well. It's Artisan Olive Oils is all part of that package as well, and they're on for the rest of the season. They're going to become the primary sponsor on that car and a partner with NOLA Sport. So big developments. Nice to see that happen, especially with everything that's going on this year with the pandemic and the like. To see a partnership like that come together. Sean is just an absolute fan of that. Sean Gibbons, we're talking of the products of that great company. They're based right here in the Sonoma area. Dry Creek Valley, Sonoma County.
Michael Cooper feeling the heat from behind by Vesko Kozarov.
Those are two hard-nosed racers.
Yes, this will be a great little battle if we can focus on this for a bit. Good racing, really starting to get their arms around this Aston Martin platform. Paul Terry had a brilliant sprint win this morning.
Really did, and you know, it's interesting for Jeff Burton. He'd gotten really comfortable in the Audi that they ran last year. In fact, at this race, in the Saturday race last year, Vesko got out of the car in the overall lead, and they were a West Am driver pairing last year, and he was in the overall lead, and Burton with a margin, and Burton drove beautifully, just kind of was able to maintain that gap, not give much up. There was a late caution flag, bunched the field up, and there were some very, very talented, hungry drivers behind Jeff Burton. And he was able to fend him off for a number of laps and hung on for a win. And I think that was, one of those, that was that breakout moment for Jeff. You get that first taste of victory, especially if it's overall, and you're in a quote-unquote lower category. Boy, that lights the fuse.
Yeah, it makes you believe, and it was great to see the confidence build from there, and the smile on his face. He loves his racing. He really believes in Vesko Kozarov in terms of, he's a magician, it seems, in terms of the engineering prowess that he brings and the strategy that he brings to the table. So Jeff really feels he's in a great spot there.
And Vesko's a decent wheelman as well.
Very much so.
You bet.
This guy's up on it. He's the wheelman right now. Stretching that lead up to about 2.5 seconds here. That'll be a nice little buffer that the team can then work with on that minimum pit stop delta. Pit window will open in about 4 minutes, so probably 3 more laps for the leaders to be able to pit. You could have one of the cars deeper in the pack be the first to hit pit lane. It does not have to be the leader to take the first option to do that. So depending on the timing of it, you could see someone halfway through the field dive into pit lane first. But typically you're going to see with a pro starting that these cars will stay out towards the latter part of that pit stop window, so more like 25 minutes left in the race possibly when you see the final stops of the day.
And in the silver and in the AM categories, then it's they can start or finish whoever. Once you make the decision, you have to stick with it through the weekend, who's driver 1 and who's driver 2. But when it comes to the pit stop windows, it gives you a little bit of flexibility. If one of the drivers just at this venue is a little bit stronger, you'll leave him in a little bit longer.
Yeah, and depending on your track position, if you're in a pack and you feel you've got a faster race car by doing the undercut, trying to get your fresh driver in a little bit sooner, they'll also try and estimate where they'll come out in the pack with the traffic, whether they can pit now, and on this lap will give you a nice break, but that could go all out the window if someone else suddenly pits with you or something happens on the circuit. So it's just very much a bit of strategy that can certainly go sideways on you in the blink of an eye.
Here you see the 36 Window World entry of Jared Andretti from Andretti Autosport. Right behind him is Nick Whitmer. That is a battle for position, as well as that car right there, that white BMW with the blue and black on the nose. That is right now Cole Serralo running 2nd in silver. Andretti's 3rd. Whitmer is 4th in silver.
Yeah, and that really puts Cole's performance here into perspective, right? With Jared Andretti and Whitmer, 2 leaders in the championship, separated by just a single point coming in here after the victory for the Andretti Autosport pairing yesterday.
I'll tell you, this run behind these guys, Russell Walker right behind in that number 46. That's the 3rd of the NOLA Sport entries. Russell spent a lot of time driving what was called the PCA, that's Porsche Club America GT4 Club Sport Trophy East. Done a lot of MX5 Cup competition, and yesterday they were struggling just a little bit for speed, and they've found the pace, and Russell is wheeling it right now. I mean, he's staying with Andretti and Whitmer and even hounding him a little bit here.
Yeah, he's very much in the mix. You can see he's just kind of like a magnet to this little race up in front of him. Meanwhile, great battle going on here between Jan Halen and the number 7 car of Anderson. So this is not a battle for class position. Zach Anderson really making a bit of a statement here this afternoon. Just showcasing his ability to tuck it to the inside. I don't think you're going to make a move on Jan Halen like that, but he's thinking about it.
Oh, look at
this.
this.
Kozarov and Cooper side by side.
Oh, this is that place we were talking about. Cooper recognizing it immediately and going, yeah, you don't want it to go wrong here. And immediately just slip back in behind. See what happens down in the braking zone here. Kozarov just feints in a little early.
Car looks good.
Yes,
I mean,
does.
I really think they're starting to turn the corner for Red and Racing, and Laura Tallman leading that charge. They just do a tremendous job, and I'm not sure how much testing they've been able to do with a lockdown and situation like that, but switching to these Aston Martins in the off-season. Didn't quite seem to have a handle on it early, but now, this weekend, cars look really strong.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, it couldn't be more different than the Audi they ran last year, which mid-engine V10 and the Aston Martin, a front-engine car, but you can see the performance potential in that car. And again, Whitmer taking a serious look at Andretti into 1 and 2.
Love the flow and the rhythm up the hill here. If you try and ask too much through turn 1, it typically bites you by the time you get to turn 2, but Whitmer looks to the inside. Andretti's used to that sort of close company with his background in racing. Doesn't give it to him. He's not intimidated at all. You get the car in the position, you think, oh, he's just going to give it up. There is no give up on Jared Andretti. He's one of the most stubborn and feistiest little racers we've seen here in a while. I love it.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. And then right behind them, watching all this, is Russell Walker, who will be turning over to his dad. This is a father-son combo, and his dad has also done that same GT4 Club Sport racing and had a fair amount of success, and has done some Formula Mazda Masters racing over the years, so that's fun to watch here. And boy, it's fun to watch Whitmer's going to try and cut down underneath Jarrett. He did, but that McLaren had a little wider line, allowed him to just carry enough speed, didn't it?
It did. Pit window was open, but I think for a lot of these guys, they'll elect to stay out and just maximize the majority of that 10-minute time frame to make your pit stop. I think Orblin will stay out, even though he'd probably rather give up the wheel right now. He's struggling here this weekend. He's not used to backpedaling any in these races, so been a bit of a miserable couple of races for Bill.
There's Kozarov, there's Cooper in the blue car, and in comes Cole Serralo, followed by Andretti. I think that's Alex Welch who's coming in as well. And then Cody Ware. Cody was mega impressive in yesterday's race. It's unfortunate they're suffering that contact-related ill handling, they think, on that Ginetta.
Colin Mullen did a great job for the Window World team here yesterday. Opening stint was really impressive and allowed Jarrett to bring it home for the silver class victory.
And this is 87 seconds pit in to pit out, correct?
That's correct.
And we don't change tires, don't refuel. It's simply a driver change. But it's mega crucial if you get it wrong. Ryan?
Well, this was the site that Colin Mullen really announced himself. If you go back to last year, they were looking for someone after Jared Andretti got the midseason promotion from AM to Pro. They had to swap out co-drivers here so that they could keep their classification, and Colin was drafted in pretty much at the last minute. He did a really great job, a local guy with some track knowledge, and really took to this McLaren well, coming from a bunch of different types of cars. But so far this weekend, he's been carrying the load for the team, and I know Jared has said it's really nice knowing he's got a co-driver that he can rely on if he's maybe not having his best weekend. Colin is down and away.
We'll keep an eye on the margins here, and ooh, they were under by a tenth, but I think they had that joker. They haven't used it yet, so that should be great. Serralo to Barber. Boy, these guys are nailing it. 87.4 seconds, 87.6. Cody Ware to Ryan Dexter. And Samantha Tan turns over to John Miller, and also another really stout stop.
Yeah, really impressive here. Everyone's kind of cutting those margins down a little bit. There used to always be a bit of a fudge factor in there, but now they realize that can be pivotal in their track position. There's another team that really has two really strong drivers in Nikolai Algany, and he'll take over from Mads Siljehaug. So they could elect to pit Mads whenever. And you know that Nikolai will be up on the wheel as well.
And Siljehaug, you mentioned the fact that he was a Ryder Engineering factory driver, the company that develops this GT4 version of this crossbow. And last year in the ADAC Masters, which is the German version of a GT4 championship, he was the champ, and he had podiums in the European Championship. So he's quick, he knows this car well, and Nikolai is certainly every bit as equal, so this should be fun. But I want to tell you, Zach Anderson is just relentless on Jan Halen here.
Yeah, really impressive when you think about the experience level of Jan Halen, and to recognize there's really a bullet in terms of his pace behind the wheel of one of these Porsches. And Zach Anderson is just giving him a workover right now.
And my first thought was, boy, what an opportunity for Zach to follow around and learn from one of the very best. And Zach's like, yeah, I've learned. I'm ready to go here. This is impressive stuff. 9-9A. Tell you, the guy coming up behind them is
Kozarov.
Yeah, he's really flying right now.
Yeah, he's just gapped Michael Cooper big time in that blue McLaren, so he'll hang out there for another 5 minutes if it works out that way. In terms of, can't cut it too close. If you're within a few seconds, you suddenly have a little bobble or a spin, you don't want to run afoul of getting it to pit lane in time. Don't have to have completed the service, of course, just get it on pit lane by the time the clock runs out to 25 minutes to go.
Toby Grahovic is in. He'll be turning over that classic BMW to Chandler Hull, the TAC Energy machine. And, these guys staying out and dueling right now, but yeah, impressive the speed that we're seeing from Kozarov. He just ran a 150.1, and the guys in front of him are running mid 151s. He is booking right now. Of course, this is going to blunt his charge just a little bit. Ryan?
Chandler Hull, Toby Grahovic, a last-minute addition to this lineup. If you go back to the weekend at VIR, Chandler had a huge program set for running over in Europe, and obviously that's quite difficult. So in addition to his touring car program, he's now hopping behind the wheel of the GT4 car. He and Toby making for quite a pair. They did very, very well in that VIR weekend. Things looking relatively smoothly here. A little bit of trouble getting the window net buckled, but it appears to be set. Just a slight hold, and they are back into the race.
Well, we could see on that left front corner doing a little tire pressure adjustment, it looked like. You're certainly going to check the tire pressures, and if you can, you know, it's one of those deals. If you can quickly, you need to bleed just a little bit of pressure, you can do that and see if you can improve the handling. You can't change the tires. It's about all you can do. And Siljehaug from the overall lead in. Foley is in. Leafoge is in. Davis is in.
I saw Zach Anderson had gotten around Jan Halen looking at the action on the racetrack as everyone was starting to peel down pit lane. So nice performance by him. Now it's going to be about execution. Very different driver change on this crossbar, of course, with the Batmobile type opening. Nikolai Alganian waiting for his teammate. Really solid performance here. Didn't put a wheel wrong.
Getting some cooling right for those turbos, Ryan.
Well, this car, the qualifying pace all year has been really good. A couple of poles in class in the season opener at Circuit of the Americas. Not quite as much on the pace at VIR, but right back on form here. Really great opening stint from Matt Siljehaug, who is brand new to North American racing, doing a great job, and now turning it over to Nikolai Alganian, who was really fast before the turbo issues hit yesterday. Still looking for their first win of the season, though, guys.
Yeah, they get those driver changes done remarkably quickly. We'll see how it plays out in that 87-second window. When you were right, Anderson had gone around Halen. Oh, this is interesting. There's a side-by-side rule. Whichever car is in the outside lane gets the lead, and nice job there by Dynan to recognize that and just let Alganian go. But boy, did they match each other in terms of stops. Look at that. Oh boy, this may have come with a little bit of your argy-bargy there. Yep,
yeah, as I said, you don't normally make that move on Jan Halen without him fighting it. So Zach forced his way through, and getting back that Robbie Foley, Michael Dynan switch over underneath the minimum pit stop delta by 7/10, so that'll be okay. That's that 1 second joker you got to play with. So nice job there by the Flying Lizard boys in terms of trying to utilize that to gain some track position. Almost got him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Siljehaug to Alganian, it was a little bit long, 88.8, so almost 89 seconds. So they gave up a couple of seconds there, and that's why it was so close coming off. Now Kenton Cook is in last year's runaway TCR Cup champion, who had a stunning weekend here in that class last year. Brian Putt going to get on board, and this should be an interesting little argument. Oh, look at that.
Wow, that's a bit unnecessary.
Yeah. And that's on the way into their pit. That wasn't even exiting and arguing over who's got what.
Kozarov and Halen have to see what the stewards think about that, if anyone was at fault there.
Yeah, and you see Jan, that passenger side mirror dangling from the contact with Zach Anderson, so I'm guessing Halen probably a little fired up.
Bet.
And Kozarov lives fired up.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Kozarov had got around him on the racetrack. Anderson had just made the move. I'm not sure if Kozarov got by him on the in lap, but they were certainly fighting it out coming down pit lane.
Here's another look at it.
It's hard to tell if either one of them really moved, but there'll be some words after this one, or even before the checkered flag, back behind the pit wall.
I suspect you're right on that one. Let's see, Andrew Davis to Bell, 88.3. Cook to Putt, 87.9, right in that window.
If you're giving up more than a second, you're really potentially costing track position, I think. Look at this little schmozzle.
That's that same group.
Colin Mullen there. Dives to the inside on Harry Gottsacker. So again, that's pivotal because they're the two that are fighting out for the championship lead. Right now, Gottsacker and Whitmer in the 28 ST Racing BMW had the lead coming into this event by 1 point. So every position is crucial right now.
Yeah, this is just a fascinating scrap here. And Whitmer turning over to Gottsacker, 88.1, so that was a good stop.
Vogel trying to hang on there, just gets a little bit loose there as she comes through the carousel, taking over the reins of that McLaren from Michael Cooper. Trying to fight hard here as that Tim Barber now in this sandwich here. Mullen clears Vogel as well, and now it's up to Harry Gottsacker to try and deal with this situation. Belluardo now trying to get up to speed in the RS1 number 37.
Tell you what, these pit stops, they are really exciting here. Belluardo, here comes Barber up the inside.
This has potential to get messy.
It does. Colin Mullen really bounding over the curbs. I think some of that was sort of self-preservation to make sure he stayed away from some of the other cars. And Belluardo, he's just off his rhythm a little bit.
He's just trying to find his groove right now. Just got behind the wheel, and now down to the inside goes Jeff Burton. Little touch.
I'll tell you, Charlie Belluardo, when the 1 or 2 races they did last year, he was impressive as an AM driver, but just can't quite find the groove here.
Quite ironic that the 37 and the 91 have now touched both sides of their race cars together in the space of 3 minutes.
Well, that's a very good point. And you wonder if, I mean, there was the contact with Halen and Zach Anderson, and then the contact with Kozarov. You wonder if something's maybe been knocked a little bit out in terms of toe or something on that car, and he's just struggling to figure out a workaround. There's Elias Sabo. 511 tactical entry, and look at this move here. Quinlan deep.
Around the outside of John Allen, so John Allen trying to hang on here for another strong finish for this group, coming off 2 victories at VIR. He's feeling the pressure right now as everyone just starting to get into a rhythm. All of the pit stops have been completed. Pit stop window is now closed, of course. Now it's just a straight run to the checkered flag.
So that would mean, I think, did Hart turned over to Travis. I think timing just hasn't quite cycled yet. They waited until the very last minute here.
Yeah, I think it's going to cycle this time around.
Be able to get you the order. Yep, Elganian to the top, and the Marco Polo crossbow. Pulling Architect's car. Look at this, 3 abreast briefly there. Wow, this is fierce stuff.
I'll tell you what, though, for the 47 team who started deep in the pack, Jason Hart and the whole NOLA Sport team did a great job after this pit stop cycle. Now Travis is running 2nd in class and 3rd overall from what was looking like a really bad day for them.
And John Miller, as John Miller does, just absolutely aggressive and on it here. Picked up a couple of spots right from the off here. He's got work to do now.
He's full attack mode.
Yeah, he sure is. That GPI Biotech entry with, I think, my favorite racing livery of the season. I really do. I think that Van Gogh Starry Night livery that's on both of those ST racing cars. Pretty spectacular.
It is. It's a first-class operation. Samantha Tan's father, Ken Tan, is the team principal there. They do everything in the right way. Samantha celebrates her birthday tomorrow. That's tight. That is a
big-time
commitment move there down to the inside there.
Oh!
Yeah, I don't think...
And then Burton saying, all right,
yeah,
I'll give as I get here, and Miller had to come up with a big save.
Yeah, Jeff didn't like that one and retaliated a little bit. It's pretty forceful there by Miller down to the inside, but he's on the attack. He realizes that time is precious right now. Not a lot of time left on the board. Opens up the door a little bit there for Chandler Hull.
Hull tried him, couldn't quite get it done. Let's watch this again here.
Yeah, I mean, Miller was already committed, and then Jeff didn't want to give him a lane, and just gave him the old chrome horn as they're coming through the carousel. What's this? This is the 82 car.
That's Walker.
Oh, pit lane speed violation, drive-through penalty. That's why he's in.
Well, when it goes wrong, that's
it's a
just
rough
tough.
one.
Yeah.
Came into this weekend second in the points, and they're just doing a lot of damage here.
Well, there's Miller, who is now all by his own self. And I'm sure somewhat relieved for that as we're watching the Barber-Mullen battle. Again, this is for second in the silver category. Barber has it, Mullen wants it. There is your silver leader, Elganian, 5.5 up the road, Cal.
Yeah, it looks like it's just smooth sailing, barring any technical issues. So for Nikolai, he just needs to hit his marks and just focus forward. But then I think what's really impressive is the Andretti Autosport team recovering here from a poor qualifying run. Andretti did his work. Mullen now runs in 10th overall, but 3rd in class.
Yes.
And if he can get around Tim Barber, that would be a big day for him, because they'd gap their nearest pursuers in the championship, Harry Gottsacker and Nick Whitmer, a little bit further.
Here's a look at Michael Dinan, that Flying Lizard Aston Martin. And right behind him, Matt Travis in the 47 Vess Energy NOLA Sport Porsche. Oh, this is some furious stuff back in the pack. Aaron Vogel and the Flying Lizard McLaren trying to feel some pressure from Burton, who's got Hull and that classic BMW right there. And then that's Sean Gibbons in the number 7.
There's just battles everywhere, isn't there?
It's fabulous stuff, yeah.
Gibbons right now runs in the 2nd position in the AM class, so another big day for the Trattori Farms team.
At 16th overall, we're watching here. Vogel in the number 7 sits in the 13th spot, 7th in Pro-Am. Behind her, Burton, 8th in Pro-Am. Behind them is Hull. They run in silver, so they're a little bit further down the order than they would have liked. And then Sean Gibbons. You can see Burton looking, see if there was any lane that Aaron was going to leave, and Aaron defends down into turn 4 into the carousel.
She's done a nice job.
Yes,
I mean,
she is.
She is really willing to dig deep and get stubborn and get feisty and give as good as she gets. This is nice to see.
If she's ever going to be comfortable at a racetrack, it's probably this one.
He has a ton of seat time here, so it's a good circuit for her. But very early on her learning curve.
Look at Cole, run he got here.
Burton just suddenly slowed there a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on. He is in super deep, almost into the tail of the McLaren. And just keeping it super neat, hitting her marks.
I said Cole, that's Chandler Hull, of course. And right there, Vogel just gaps everybody.
Breathe there to get through turn 8. Meanwhile, John Allen starting to feel some heat from behind.
Here comes Elias Szabo from way, way back. Gets down to the inside. Allen not just giving it. Szabo then drifts across. Allen has to check up, and now Cole Serralo.
That's a battle of top
Yes.
3 in AM are right there. Excuse me, and check that. That's Allen, the AM leader, in a battle
Right.
between Barber and Mullen.
Which is a big one in that silver division, isn't it? And Mullen's not yet been able to figure a way by. Szabo running in Pro-Am, and he is putting on one heck of a drive. Oh, look at this drive through
they're going to call them both out
in.
on it.
Yep.
The responsibility is shared, so you're both going to have a drive-through penalty, which will cost you probably 35 seconds to the field. So that is painful for the co-drivers. Jeff Burton and Belluardo are going to have to serve the penalties for their teammate there for that little bit of argy-bargy. And I think it's the correct decision. I mean, the stewards just don't want to see that when you got crews working on cars up and down pit lane. If you start to get a little bit of feistiness going on, it's just too dangerous to have that sort of thing happen. It could have been, you know, no intention there, but either way, the cars should not be hitting as they're coming down pit lane. Oh, I'm talking about hitting. Mullen forces his way through on Tim Barber there.
Yeah, well, that's
turn
huge.
7. It is, because that then spreads the gap between he and Harry Gottsacker, who's a couple of positions further back.
And you know, that little bit of argy-bargy between those two of Reardon and, or excuse me, Kozarov and Halen on the racetrack, they may have let that go. You know, that wasn't really awfully egregious, but as you said, it's in pit lane. There are people sitting there at the pit walls and the like. That's a whole different dynamic, and you've got to get a hold of that immediately, I think. And the thing is, that sends a message to the entire paddock. You do that, you're going to pay. Yeah,
and I think when we looked at it, it was like which one moves, so I think they looked at it as well, like no one really turned right or left into someone. They just should have given each other a bit more breathing room. There's no need to be running that close if you're side by side. I mean, theoretically, you come through the horseshoe here onto the pit lane. It may be that someone didn't have their pit lane speed limiter set at the absolute maximum and it allowed a little bit of side-by-side action there, but you just got to think about it and be savvy and not get into that type of situation.
Exactly. Cone laying there in the middle of the track. Aaron kind enough to move it for everybody. I'm really impressed.
Yes, he's done a nice job. He's not intimidated and just willing to just keep placing the race car where it's hard to get around. See those cones there. It's 13 minutes on the board. If they want to do a cleanup, we've got time to get a reset here, but those cones typically aren't going to do too much damage. They're very light, even if they get flicked up to a following car.
Exactly. And if my name was Alganian, I might nick one of that cone right now. Get that thing moved. Preserve this 10-second margin he's got.
Yeah.
Because he's in a great position right now, and for him, it's not necessarily worrying about tires. That car's good. Celia Haug and Nikolai, I'm sure, both managed it beautifully. But with the issues they've been having with the turbo and everything on that car, he can backpedal it just a little bit. Oh, Aaron floated just a little wide, and that's let Chandler Hull down underneath.
Just needs to reset, get back into a rhythm. I'll tell you, who's flying is Dexter in that Ginetta.
Yeah.
The problems that Ware had early in the going, where having to reset everything. It's a nice rebound from a team that had a great result here yesterday.
Yeah, they were flying yesterday.
And second in the silver class and 5th overall.
And they might have a little handling discrepancy in terms of mechanically there, but that car is so easy. Look at Vogel coming back on Hull. Yeah, she's up on it here, but he that Ginetta is so good on tires that relative to everybody else, even with a little handling issue mechanically, that car is pretty lively.
Sean Gibbons here having another strong run, just consistency, always on the podium. And here we see the drive-through penalties being served. Belluardo is in. I think he must have a cut-down tire now. You can't do service on a penalty situation, so he's probably going to have to come down pit lane again.
I would think so, yep.
This is not a great day for the 37 team.
And I'll tell you here, Cal, it's getting interesting in the AM category because John Allen now is 11th in the overall order, and Gibbons is 15th. And Gibbons, I'm looking at lap times here, they're fairly close at this scenario.
17 seconds is the gap right now, in several cars as well, but definitely John Allen is running a pace that they have to be aware of in terms of maintaining that lead. Chris Wilson, what a brilliant job he did here.
He is something special. And John Allen, of course, is a 78 graduate of the University of Alabama College of Engineering, and he's created an internship program with the College of Engineering, and there's a number of interns here this weekend that are helping as members of the team, and they are growing that program. They did sort of a beta version of it last year, and it was so well received, and so many students there just absolutely fascinated by the opportunity. And John is just a massive supporter and alumnus of University of Alabama, and very committed to it, and just doing a great job. And said the faculty advisor, Dr. Paul Puzanauskas, might even have been able to make the trip as well, and that's really a cool story to see a driver. And I mean, John recognized as a bit of a philanthropist, and a lot of that goes toward his favorite department at UA.
And he's keeping that gap pretty consistent between he and Sean Gibbons, so maybe he can hold on for that AM victory. But this one is heating up nicely. This is for second overall, but for the lead in Pro-Am. So Michael Dinan has it right now, but you can see that Matt Travers has closed in on him. I think that gap was about 3 or 4 seconds at one point, so Matt's done a really nice job of just chiseling away at that lead to the 21 machine.
As we watch him, let's get back down to pit lane, Ryan.
Well, we saw Charlie Belluardo come in with that cut tire, and I guess the good news is that they had already served their drive-through penalty, so they don't have any outstanding penalty to serve as a consequence of that issue on pit lane. But as he was coming in to replace the tire, his co-driver, Jan Halen, went down to Reardon Racing and exchanged what I'll describe as a few heated words with Vesko Kozarov. I'm not sure that they ever did quite see eye to eye as that conversation resolved itself. But anyway, that one might be boiling over for a little while, guys.
I wouldn't be at all surprised. And we just got another penalty come up for the 91, a pit lane infringement, which is different from, I wonder if that's what we were talking about, that infringement was the two of them infringing on each other's space.
Yes.
So, okay. I hope that's what this is.
Yeah.
Erin Vogel, she did give up that spot to Chandler Hull, but now she's been able to keep Sean Gibbons behind her. And Ryan Dexter is, as we said, looking awfully good as we're 8 minutes remaining in this 7th round of the championship.
And I think that showcases what a great job Aaron is doing here, because Dexter's got a really quick car, and Sean Gibbons as well. I mean, both Aaron and Sean are keeping that Ginetta at bay, so they've got really good pace right now. I know for Sean Gibbons, he's probably thinking, well, maybe if I could clear this McLaren, I could maybe try and chase down John Allen, but they're running very similar lap times, so looks like John Allen may be doing enough to hang on to this win here today.
Well, they've had a great start to the season. There's no question about that. Gibbons running a little bit faster than Allen, but it's not huge chunks.
Yeah, and Allen still has about 14 seconds gap to Sean Gibbons, who runs second in the AM class, so should be enough to hang on here with just 7 minutes to go.
This is going to be an interesting little scenario here. This is the battle for the final podium spot in Pro-Am. Battle for 4th overall, Brian Putt. And in that Aston Martin, and being chased and hounded a little bit now by Sean Quinlan, who's taken over from Greg Leafoge. There's John Allen, your AM leader. Look at the side of that car, you see it very clearly, Roll Tide.
Yeah, and he's done a really nice job.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough racetrack, and John's hanging in tough. He's really taken over the car in great position. Chris Wilson did what he normally does, a stellar job to begin this race and get the car to a good track position. But a lot of pressure on John Allen when you take over the lead in class. You're trying to hang on here. So far, so good. I know there's 6 minutes still on the board, but just hit his marks, stay focused. I'm sure Chris is talking to him on the radio, just trying to talk him through these final 6 minutes of the race.
And you want that display on your windshield flashing. That means that you are leading in your class. And he's just, as you said, 6 minutes. He's got to hang in there a little bit.
Looking super tidy.
Yeah, really clean. Which means he's probably got pretty good tires on that car right now.
Well, that's the other thing. The key for someone like Chris Wilson, not only is he getting you great track position, typically he's going to hand over the car.
Yeah.
Not as a molten heap. You know, there's something to go drive with.
Boy, this is such a good scrap here, Travis. And that Vest Energy NOLA Sport Porsche, the black, white, and Dayglow yellow chasing that deep blue Flying Lizard Aston Martin.
We've seen Michael Dinan earlier today be pretty racy and pretty feisty.
Yeah.
So Travis has to think about the big picture. Certainly Orville and Walker are having a tough day. So They're in pretty good shape points-wise. I know he'd love to get the victory, continue on the tear that they've been on, but...
Ooh.
Oh, they're saying the 47 missed the pit stop window. We talked about Jason Hart being the last to pit. Well, he was last because he pitted after he should have. Wow, what a mistake.
This is massive.
Was that a radio issue, or they just cut it too fine? I mean, in that minimum threshold as to when you got hit pit lane, is it pit lane, the inline, the sensor there, the timeline. So you don't have to have it completed, so maybe they push it just one lap too far. And this is huge.
Well, when you cut it that fine, and you know, if you get hung up behind somebody and lose a couple of seconds, you know, sometimes that's it, and it's sometimes just not worth it. Obviously, a wounded Halen, I think, or Telly Belluardo letting this, or maybe he was just letting this group go because they know this is a heck of a battle here. Boy, Brian Putt under huge pressure from Quinlan. And you can hear Derek DeBoer down to the inside of Ryan Dexter, and there's a touch.
Yeah, that's a tough place to make a move, and Ryan was just coming down. Didn't expect for Derek to squeeze down the inside there. That's unfortunate because Derek was very much on the charge there in the TRG LaSalle Solution Porsche.
Well, he was closing. He was seeing just in front of Dexter was Gibbons, and that was a position in AM. So he was well motivated, but must have, in that contact, he may have cut that tire down. And this little scrap continues here.
Yeah, this is for second and third in the Pro-Am class, third and fourth on the road. Brian Putt done an excellent job of not being flustered or harried into a mistake so far. Quinlan, another one of these drivers that we've just seen develop over the last couple of years, Greg, into just a solid driver.
Yes.
I mean, again, these are gentlemen drivers. They don't earn their living from driving race cars. They earn it from being successful businessmen and then coming to the racetrack as Quinlan now looks to the inside, but under great tutelage from Greg Leafouge for Quinlan. And then obviously Kenton Cook and Brian Putt teaming up for a great little new team operation here.
Well, I'll tell you, a stop and go now for the 91 of Burton, saying contact with the number 38 in turn number 6. That is John Miller.
Wow, that has been quite the catalog of incidents here today for that car.
Yeah, for that Reardon team, and that was for that little tap as they got into the carousel. And I'm sure Burton felt a little aggrieved with Miller's aggressive move.
Well, again, he was committed, and we couldn't really see how it initially evolved, so maybe there was a lane there, and Jeff had actually squeezed that one too. So
absolutely.
I'm sure the stewards have taken a careful look at that and trying to examine it. Very similar to that,
almost.
Yeah. Very similar to that, but there wasn't enough room in the other case.
Now, Ganian, just to keep you abreast of things there, up now by 15 seconds. That crossbow is flying in he and Celia Hog's hands. Then Dynan about 15 seconds clear of this battle. Dynan leading in Pro-Am. Putt in second, Quinlan in third.
Big day here for Marco Polo Motorsports. Muellerized John Mueller, the local man who's got the prep shop here locally, and just says, I love this racetrack. It's where I was brought up as a kid, watching his dad race. Old, he weren't historic at the time, but some old British marks here over the years. And then John was a racer himself, and he just said, we love this racetrack. We did 3 days of testing here trying to get this new 2020 crossbow dialed in, and they did an awesome job. And we're very gutted yesterday by the technical issue with the broken electronic wastegate, but they went to work, figured out what was going on, and delivered a really great car here as he's now on his final lap.
Yeah, and they get great support from Colin Altomare Architects, which is who Nikolai works for, actually, and that company has stepped up. One allows Nikolai to get out of the office and go race, and also help the team. Craftsman Transporters, and as you said, Muellerized, and doing a nice job. And right now, Brian Putt doing a superb job fending off Sean Quinlan, and you talked about it, just how good we've seen Sean Quinlan become here. And Brian Putt did a lot of racing early in his life, and then realized he was away from family too much and decided to take some time. And then his son ended up being globally rated in motorcycle, a certain discipline in motorcycling. And he said he got to travel with his son just a little bit. And then when everybody grew up in the family, he said, well, maybe I can do it again. Got back into SCCA racing, running lightweight small prototypes. And stepped into the TCR category last year. And won.
Big commitment there.
Yes, it was.
Dives down to the inside as Brian elects to take that inside lane away and overslows the car. Quinlan still looking for that next step on the podium. Half a lap to go as they exit turn 7.
And meanwhile, last time through the hairpin, Nikolai Elganian rolling under the throttle for that crossbow. Marco Polo Motorsports, 1 turn to go. Overall win here at Sonoma in Pirelli GT4 America Sprint competition. There's Celia Haugen. Look at the celebrations from the crew. Well earned indeed. Here comes Michael Dynan and Flying Lizard. Another win for him this season. He has just been unbelievable here as he comes through with a nice margin. And here's the battle. Oh, Putt defended, had to turn in, floated out late, and looked for a minute like Quinlan was going to be able to maybe cut down underneath. Now it's just a drag race to the line. Quinlan squares up underneath. It's that close, but it goes to Putt by 1/10 of a second. It was that close. And next up, the number 36 of Colin Mullen here. There's the number 47 who had, well, I'll tell you what a finish they would have had, except they had to do that long drive-through. That had to be brutal, obviously.
That's a gut blow for a team that really performed really well.
Indeed.
To come from deep in the pack for the 47 team to a potential podium, if not a win, and have that taken away through that infraction. Just someone got their sums a little bit wrong there, and that's a devastating blow in their championship.
Yep, and you talked about how important this was for Andretti and Mullen. Second in the silver category with Miller and Gottsacker behind them. That has big points implications, and a great drive by Jason Bell taking over from Andrew Davis, bringing that car home. 6th overall, 2nd in the Pro-Am category, or 4th in the Pro-Am category, excuse me, in the number 2 car. Just a nice job by Jason Bell.
Yeah, and he's only got 3 races left this weekend, right?
Yeah, so that's just amazing what he's doing. And then John Allen and Chris Wilson winning in the AM category. Allen hanging on, but Vogel was the only car between Allen and Givens. Givens gave it a serious go, trying to get to that AM win here, just missing it there with that run to 13th, with Allen and Wilson 11th overall as you take a look at the results.
Yeah, just a great day of racing. A little bit of argy-bargy along the way, some resets and everything, but just some big performances. Moving day, they call it in the PGA golf tournament here locally today on Saturday. Well, there's some big moves taking place on the racetrack as well.
And the CrowdStrike fastest lap award, it goes to that number 71 Marco Polo entry, a 1 minute 47.940. Get that prestigious award for fast lap here at Sonoma as we take a look at the rest of the field. And there's one of the big stories. Walker and Oberlin, 16th overall, 8th in Pro-Am. And again, you take a look at the other competitors in front of them. Huge swing. The biggest development there maybe was it looked like Travis would be in the hunt for a win, he and Hart, and end up 5th in Pro-Am. That maybe a little salve for the wound.
Yeah, literally. Takes a little bit of the sting out of it for the Bimmerwald team.
They've got to find a solution to the setup on that car, and they got one more shot at it tomorrow.
Yeah, I just wonder, I mean, it's so easily, as we said, you know, you make a setup change, you lose the pace, you just try and backpedal on the setup, but maybe there's something technically going on with the race car. But you know, Bill Oberlin, he's like an engineer as well as a driver.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he's going through that car along with the crew with a fine-tooth comb to try and figure things out.
That's a big celebration. And it's even more meaningful now after how close they came yesterday and then had it stolen from them here. Anytime you win, and especially an overall win, it's big, but when you came that close and then had this happen, it's great to see this celebration, and so well earned. And one of the cool things is this is Matt Silliahawk's first season ever racing in North America, and these two guys have become absolutely inseparable friends. That's really cool as well.
Yeah, it's a wonderful little team. There's Nikolai celebrating with his father, and I just love Nikolai. He's always got that big grin. He reminds me of Danny Ricciardo from F1 in terms of the look and the big smile all of the time.
Yeah, absolutely right. All right, let's go take a look at some highlights. Front pole, Silliahawk getting the drop. The doing what he needed to do. Robbie Foley right there, but the very racy Ken Cook, and those two were going to be side by side for a few corners, Cal.
Yeah, it was a great battle that developed, and then Chris Wilson took advantage on the plunge down into turn 4, but a little bit later on, big move here by Jason Hart down to the inside of Bill Oberlin, takes away that critical position.
Look like they might be on their way, except for a late penalty here. And then this little bit of a moment here as Zach Anderson up underneath Jan Halen in a touch. And it got that mirror dangling on that RS Porsche. And then a little bit later on, there's this little bit of a moment down pit lane, which is going to cost them both dearly, Cal.
Yeah, just really unnecessary. There's no crew right there, but so often if you have an incident on pit lane with the crews working, and then you almost see a little bit of a sideways slice and a bit of argy-bargy here. Miller down to the inside, and then Jeff Burton gives him a little nudge. He'd get a drive-through penalty for that one.
And then out of the final turn after taking over, Elganian bringing it home. The crew celebrating, his co-driver Matt Sillihaug helping him out of the car into some welcoming arms. And what a great day indeed. This was the car that won in the AM category, Chris Wilson and John Allen. And all of those interns from the University of Alabama College of Engineering here as part of their motorsports program. And there is John, and look at the, just absolutely delighted. He put in one heck of a run. Watch, there it is. Oh man, they had a great run. And then let's not forget in the silver category, second, Mullen and Andretti. That has big implications as well. But Dinan and Foley, pretty dominant win actually in the Pro-Am category.
Yeah, it really
well,
was. So bouncing back from, he had the win yesterday in the sprint class and got beaten earlier in the day, but rebounded nicely. You see Colin Mullen discussing some of the battle scars of the excellent run here again today.
Yep, and there's Samantha Tan having a chat with John Miller about their run. And it's a good one, third in silver.
Yeah, she'd love to go one better tomorrow on her birthday, but still a great weekend for that group. They continue to perform at the highest level, ST Racing, always in the mix.
Yeah, that Window World entry has been through the wars today, hasn't it? But still in all, again, a second in their category and big in terms of points. And everybody looking forward to heading over to the podium for the top 3 finishers in their classes. And that includes Samantha Tan and John Miller. And shout out here to Sean Gibbons, who he and Zach Anderson, they've just been so dominant. But he put in another great drive and got close to an opportunity maybe to go after John Allen and just flat ran out of time. And they put together a great drive. And then the number 3, good run there for that team as well. Michael McElhannon and Dan Rogers quietly working their way right up into the podium in the AM category. Yeah, so nice job for Motorsports USA. So let's get down to Ryan with Nikolai Elganian.
Nikolai will be jumping in here in a second. His co-driver, Matt Sillihaug, first win on North American soil. I know you've been looking forward to this career move for a while. How sweet does it taste, this victory here in the U.S.?
For sure, it tastes extremely well. Had some problems with the car, and finally to get it dialed in, and all the effort we have been doing to make this happen is unbelievable to finally get it. Extremely happy with the team. Also with my co-driver, spotless, couldn't say anything bad, so it was amazing, everything.
Really well done. Congratulations to you. We'll go ahead and have Nikolai step in. If we could get Nikolai's attention, I'll go ahead and have you step in here. Thank you very much, Mads. Nikolai, I know yesterday the ultimate disappointment, right? The car was so fast, you were out in front when the turbo problems popped up. How good does it feel to exercise those demons and break through for the first win of the season?
Yeah, well, it feels really good to be back. We were here last year and we weren't too strong, so to come here and feel confident again is really nice, nice feeling. I'm really happy with the teammate, and you know, the whole Marco Polo Motorsports team crushed it, and it took us a few races to figure out this 2020 car, but it worked out in the end, so we're really happy.
He's got a mask on his face. You can still see the smile, though. Well done.
It's all
congratulations.
nice.
That's right. That's right. Good job.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for the mask. We certainly understand it, but you're right. That comparison to Daniel Ricciardo is absolutely spot on with him. It's just joyous all the time. And there is a look at the silver category with Mullen and Andretti second, Miller and Tan third. Just a great run there. Whitmer and Gottsacker right behind them on the track. And and finishing in fourth, and then Chandler Hull and Toby Grahovic with Cody Ware. And I'll tell you, Ryan Dexter, he came alive late in that one. It was impressive. And Serralo and Barber, they've been showing so much speed here, and today just wasn't their day. And let's get back down to Ryan with our Pro-Am winners.
That's right, Flying Lizard Motorsports. It was Robbie Foley teaming with Michael Dinan. We'll start with you, Robbie. We talked yesterday off the air about the development of your co-driver, a guy you've been coaching for a while, Michael Dinan. For those at home, can you take them through the development that you've seen out of him to put in the kind of performance he needed to in his stint to bring home the victory?
Yeah, for sure. It's been really impressive over the last 3 years to see Michael's improvement. He's still very new to racing, but doing a very good job. His speed's always been there, but now he's really able to put races together. He had a lot of pressure from the 47 car behind until they got a drive through, but he did a great job, very mature drive to keep him behind until that point. So, yeah, really impressed with Michael, and he's obviously killing it in sprint as well. So, yeah, it's a great weekend for him, and happy to, get the win with him.
Congratulations to you. Glad that you're feeling well as well.
Thanks,
after the big crash a week
Getting
ago.
better.
We'll have you step to the side. We'll bring Michael back in. He's an old pro at this. We've talked a few times already this weekend, but it is your first Sprintx win of the season. And you've been knocking on the door. It's been a lot of hard work. So to get that victory, what is the significance?
Yeah, it honestly feels amazing. Robbie and I did Sprintx last season and this season, and this is our first time winning in Sprintx. I had a few wins so far this year in sprint, but to get the win with Robbie feels incredible. Super happy to share the moment with him.
One more to go tomorrow. Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was a very humble statement. I've had a few wins this year in sprint. Yeah, like dominant. It's been unbelievable. And putting up this win, it's going to be a big weekend. But how about the drive Brian Putt put in? Really impressive here with Kenton Cook and then Quinlan and Leia Foge. You know they're going to be strong everywhere, but certainly here. And again, I think Jason Bell really did a nice job taking over from Andrew Davis, bringing it home with a strong top five.
Yeah, how he's managing jumping between all of these different race cars and still putting in solid performances is really a testimony to his preparation and also Andrew Davis as his mentor and coach.
Absolutely. One more category to hear from, Ryan.
A great drive in the AM category for Reardon Racing, John Allen and Chris Wilson. And John, you got the car in the lead, and you had to hold it there. You had a lot of out-of-class traffic coming through as well. How stressful was your stint?
Well, it was pretty stressful. I had a couple of moments where I almost balled it up, but I was able to hang on. But yeah, but I'm getting better about coming out in the fray. You know, I'm learning. I'm getting better.
And you've got a couple of interns from the University of Alabama here helping you out.
Yeah, we've got 4 interns from University of Alabama College of Engineering. We've got Roll Tide. Yep. We got a lot of stuff going on there, and we've got motorsports programs that are just expanding, and I'm really excited about what we're going to be doing in the future.
Had a breakthrough weekend at VIR. Another win now to your name here at Sonoma, which is great.
That's a good collection of wins there.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. We'll have you step over. We'll bring Chris in. Chris, we talked earlier in the week, and you were just raving about the progress that John has made. Where have you seen the biggest growth?
Well, just being more comfortable in general with his driving. I mean, obviously we're getting the car better, but he's coming along as the car's coming along. So, yeah, I mean, all the sim work and, you know, the mental stuff that we do, it's really coming along. But, you know, most important thing is Roll Tide, baby.
You learn quick. Congratulations. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
He is. I mean, he is, you know, I say it so often, he's evergreen. He is just an absolute bubbly, enthusiastic guy, and it just sort of goes through the whole team when you have somebody like that. Anderson and Gibbons continuing their strong season. This is another top 2 that's not so bad. McAleenan and Rogers, as I said, that was really a strong run for them. And we watched Russell Walker there in that number 46 car. He really put in a drive today.
He did. Some great performances through that field there, and the nice thing is we get a little reset. We do it all again tomorrow.
That's right. Anybody who spends time with Chris Wilson as a mentor ends up doing well. And one of the guys is on that screen, a guy named Derek DeBoer, who spent a lot of time with him, and Derek has evolved into a very talented driver as well. Well, that wraps things up here from this second race, the 7th round of Sprintx racing. We've got another one tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you then.